like some folks don't know, oh, I don't pray. I don't know what that is. I never went to church or whatever. And it turns out that folks start coming and they look forward to circle because they're feeling that this thing that they're learning is to clear your mind and speak maybe a little bit of story. And through listening and through that speaking and maybe a song or something like that, we're actually like, I'm getting to know what I want for myself, for my family, for my community.
Hello and welcome. My name is Ava Square, and I'm the Technical Assistant Program Manager at the Health and Human Resource Education Center. I am here today with an organization that works with community-based learning training, a program provided by Alameda County Behavior Health. And I work with the Office of Ethnic Services, and we provide wonderful training to the community around cultural appropriateness. Today, I'm with the Spirit Root Medicine people, Loa, Zamora, and Rahini. I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with you, Loa?
So yes, Ava, my name is Loa Niumetolu, and what I think about myself, the things that I do like to do is that I'm a poet, and most recently I'm a farmer. And I think for most of my life, I've been a community organizer. Thank you.
Beautiful. What about you, Zamora?
Hey, well, I am very happy to be here with Spirit Root Medicine people. I'm Zamora. My people are from the South. We're from Chihuahua, Sonora, and Tabasco regions in Mexico. And I'm Yaqui and also Tongva from the LA Basin area there. I always thought that we were from the South. I have that migration story that, all the grandmothers and the big family, they crossed the border at this time. And I always thought, that means we're from Mexico and we're Yaqui from that area. But it turned out that that grandmother was from LA. So I always knew that LA was my hometown. But then I was like, I'm from LA because that family had been part of that area for a long time. Anyways, that's our diaspora story. We are both from that north of that imaginary border and south, and we have those indigenous connections to those areas. I am an educator, a community organizer. I think we might have that in common, y'all. And also I'm a ceremonial singer. I've been a part of Native drumming, specifically in ceremony in Two-Spirit communities. And that's how I come here with the drum. I present myself with that medicine as a part of this team and group of healers and medicine carriers. And I'm very happy to be bringing the drum medicine to folks, and especially in our indigenous Two-Spirit communities. Yeah.
Nice. Let's hear from Rahini.
Yes. Greetings, relatives. I'm Rahini Gonzalez. My people are from Borinquen. Puerto Rico is what you probably know it as. That is the colonizer's name for the island. The indigenous people's name for the island is Borinquen. Both sides of my family are from there. However, I was born in Lenape territory in New York, Brooklyn, New York, to be exact. And I've been living here in the Bay Area in Ohlone territory for over 2 decades now, actually. Fell in love with it here. The land is so beautiful and it's much cleaner than it is in New York. I think that was part of why I fell in love with it here, actually. And I found myself here in this position of holding space, after a couple decades of doing my own healing on the Red Road, in ceremonial spaces, primarily a lot with Sundance ceremony, also moon dance ceremony, danza. I kind of have dipped my toes in a lot of different things, and I guess that is the blessing, right, of being in the diaspora, is that we're exposed to so much medicine, but then we're also, so many of us, right, searching for, what is our people's medicine, right? What is our people's medicine? Because with colonization, we've all been so, removed and disconnected from that. So after some time and years of I found myself often being like the helper to the medicine person, or the helper to the leader in various different circles and various different ceremonies. Or at the moon dance, they asked me to work in the medicine tent. And so this is where I was always placed. And so here I am now, holding medicine. And, I guess I identify myself as a ceremonialist. And that kind of sounds like a big title. And I guess that's why I'm hesitant in saying that, because I want to be humble with that. I want to be humble. And also, I'm an artist, I'm an artist at heart, always have been since I was little. And so I bring that to the ceremony. I create the altars and, bring the flowers and place things, and with beauty. And community organizing now, mostly with this circle. I've been doing a lot of community organizing. And I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, thank you all. I'm looking at the beautiful altar there that you erected for us, and it's all the symbols. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to throw out this question. What is the mission of Spirit Root Medicine People?
We call when we take the SRMP, Spirit Root Medicine People, and then we've just decided, some of us use shrimp. I don't know if it comes out well, but that's the way we say it. So I think, of course, everyone can speak to it, but one of the things that I do know that is really important in our focus, and really, really vital too, to just our group and how we interact with each other and our community, is that Spirit Root Medicine People, it lives to reclaim the sacred role of Two-Spirit people that was taken away by colonization. And, we see that in all communities, of course, including white communities, but we do care about indigenous communities in our group. That's what we focus on indigenous communities who come.
Yeah, I think that's right. At the heart of it is relearning and connecting with the ways that we actually know more than what we think we know about our roles as Two-Spirit people. Everyone has special medicine and a relationship to traditional medicine. As Two-Spirit folks, we bring something particular to it. It's an unfolding understanding, and even in the process of doing ceremonies together, we learn every time, and things come out of our mouth, right? We call it palabra. Something comes through you, and you say it, and you go, yeah, that's medicine. That's Two-Spirit medicine. I'm still at 54 years old, I'm still learning who I am, and therefore I'm still discovering what medicine is in me. And I learn and pick up from these folks and all the folks who have carried me here, right? So I guess one mission is to help us along our individual journeys and then actually collective journey, because there has been violence done against us as individuals and collectively. People wanted to erase what LGBTQIA folks in all these different communities, they wanted to erase some other concept of gender and wanted to erase, you were either a man or a woman, and then you took one of those roles. But we know that many tribes, many places around the globe didn't understand that as a binary thing. So what would all the traditional knowledge from all those places look like if we were free to carry it, but free to carry it as me, right? So if you go to any tradition and there's a pastor or a preacher or a medicine person who's two-spirit or queer or feminist, hell, let's go there, feminist, don't they do that a little bit different? They sure do. Don't the tradition change? They sure does. So we're unfolding that, but together. We've all had different roles and stories and ceremonies we've been a part of. And then there's us and our take on it. And I think one of the biggest and best things that we do collectively is to help us remember. That's right. You experienced it that way. Let's all witness together and remember. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's keeping us alive and making us create really special moments for each other where we hold on to our history. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then also we have, a lot of folks who may have some indigenous roots, right? Or an indigenous, grandma or, but they don't really know anything about their people or any ways, that are traditional. And so, that on top of, being queer, trans, BIPOC is really, really difficult to just, because then your own people, right? Your own people are rejecting you, right? And then you don't even know your own ways. You don't even know your own ways. So that leaves one very lost, very lost. And so I feel like we cater a lot to folks who are searching, for connection to their roots. And yeah, so we bring this medicine here that is kind of a mix, of different things. And some people, don't necessarily want to mix these things. But we do it in the best way we can, in a humble way, in a good way, with our hearts open. And people really get a lot from it and start to really know how to show up at ceremony, how to make sure they have that tobacco to offer, when they come, and just, how to be in circle and how to just pray, right? How to just pray. Some people just don't even know how to just sit and pray, and when you're going through things, that's so important to know how to pray.
Yeah. Nice. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I want to circle back and talk about the two-spirit. Explain. What is two-spirit? How do you bring that to your work?
The two-spirit term it's a recent term that's been used, and it's for Native Americans. A general group, but it's for Native people from Turtle Island. So it also includes Canada and down south, like all of North and South America. That two-spirit term, and it was invented in a two-spirit, before it became at a conference of Native people in the Americas. They came up with that term. I think it was in the 90s, and it was in Canada.
Early
and they
90s.
came up, the First Nations in Canada. So they came up with that term because, all these different Native groups, they have their own languages and they have their own terms. But because of colonization, a lot of these colonization for all of us in all the different indigenous places we are from the world, all of our terms for being two-spirit or LGBTQIA have been eradicated, have been criminalized, have just been silenced. So it was really important to have this conference and for Native people to be able to name themselves a way that they want to. And in their own communities, Native people from Turtle Island, and in their own communities, it's highly contested. Some people are like, no, that's not the best term for us. And you can imagine different communities do that. But it is used, it's well used, and we adopt it. We adopt it, and just a shout out for my own, where I'm from, I'm Tongan, and in Tonga, we don't have particularly a term for me that I see my gender and my sexuality in, that I feel comfortable using. Even I do speak Tongan, and our languages have been colonized in so many ways. Like, although I speak Tongan, like so much of our Tongan language has been colonized. When the white missionaries came, the London Missionary Society came to Tonga, it's been so colonized in a way for commerce. So like the Tongan language we use today, it's like a commerce kind of Tongan language. So at least we're holding on to something. And then, of course, we have great people like artists and all these different kinds of folks who try to bring that, like all the other kind of language that has been lost. And so a term that I use that I feel closer to is when I was watching Louise Wall, she's she was a parliament member in Aotearoa, New Zealand back recently, but she was the one who put in the gay marriage bill for New Zealand to legalize gay marriage. And I was watching her. She's a woman. She's Pacific Islander. She's also like a netball player. She's a big person, and debatable, whatever. But I'm just using these words to explain what I was able to see, because I kind of feel like I come from a bigger physical people. And so when I watched that, I was really inspired. And the term that Maori people use is takatapui. And so I was like, that's my term, takatapui. I'm doing it. So that's what I use to identify with.
Nice.
Yeah, many indigenous peoples did not operate, in the binary. There were more than two genders, right? There was often a third gender, or even maybe a fourth and a fifth gender, right? So again, colonization took all that away, right? And now a lot of the young people are trying to, shift the paradigm and reclaim these other genders, these other ways, and I personally identify as non-binary and use they, them pronouns because that's what feels right to me. I don't feel that, just like Prince, I'm not a woman and I'm not a man. I am something you will never understand, right?
Okay, now we brought in
Now we're going to talk.
Okay, we got you.
Well, Z, you're wearing purple. It's your turn.
All right. No, I hold that two-spirit medicine as this really a gift for helping me communicate something about myself, and all language is not perfect, but when we use it in community, it's helpful to I think honor a part of ourselves, right? So I think that's what we're doing when we use that term. And when we get to know each other more personally, then you get to know the more specific thing about me, how I roll, right? Or how I was raised, and how gender and sexuality and my role in my family, for example, or my community is really specific. But just in communicating across these tribes, across these peoples, oh yeah, that's how I am. And I think one of the blessings that we have is when you start praying with people, right, then you start gaining a history with each other. You gain language, you gain story, you gain power together. So some songs that I've learned on the drums, they were not my people's songs. They were Lakota, or they were from another tradition. And so I didn't grow up singing them songs over and over again. But I started going to ceremony, and they asked me to sit at the drum. So I started learning them, but I didn't learn them by myself. I learned them in a context of going year after year after year. And so that song, the third year, that one year that it rained so much, that one year when so-and-so was dancing for her life, and they had this going on. And then every time I sing that song, it's learned, and every time somebody new sings the same old song from the book, the book of songs, but it's a new prayer every time. The song changes, the reference changes, and I know it in community. And sometimes we'll cry together with that song. So I bring that up now with that our conversation about Two-Spirit. It's not a dead thing. It's an alive word and meaning. And that's why we take good care. Oh, you're going to use that now? Oh, you're learning together with us now? We're going to learn together what is Two-Spirit medicine. And it grows each time we say it, and we say it in the context together. So I think it is from the beginning, it's a collective term. And now I see it as part of we have this little lineage through our group and all the people who came together, and each one of them spoke it, and we learned something new about them and about us and what is Two-Spirit medicine. We're holding that term together, and it's evolving with us. Oh.
Yes. And that's going to lead into the type of communities you reach out to.
Yeah.
With
I do want to address like the reason behind you're also doing these videos is so people don't appropriate things, and people may be watching us and they're saying, okay, but wow, you're not native to Turtle Island or whatever. So why do you there may be some parts that I'm listening to that is about appropriation, So I would like us to also definitely just talk about that too, for a minute and just tackle that. First of all, our group deals with being indigenous because we come from the grounding that we are, each one of us are indigenous people, and people who are watching this who are Two-Spirit and LGBTQ, you know how hard it is to claim that for yourself. That's really hard to claim that for yourself. With how colonization has worked, our parents, the church, media, just how we had to come to claim that to ourselves. I am 51 now. It's this group that brought me here to claim who I am for myself as Takatapui. It's been a long journey, and how I grew up. So I just want to say it's also the same way because colonization has done the same thing because it's not different. We're claiming here that being Two-Spirit and Takatapui, they're the same thing as being indigenous. They're of each other. And so it's the same thing of when the colonizers came to Borinquen and took away the land from the Taino and the people there. It's the same way that they did it in Tonga, and the same way that they did it in LA to the Tongva. So that's where we stand as our really beginning, where we come. When you see us, we say we are we are indigenous to lands, and people took away our land and took away our beautiful, revered, sacred role of being Two-Spirit. So that's where we come from. And then we express that in the different knowledges that we know from our own cultures, and then also the different knowledges, because you'll hear that it's no joke that we're also in our 50s. I think that's where it's only now that we can do this work because of the experiences we've had. And then, you'll also hear that we've also gone and, like Z just said, learn from different people to be grounded in what we have. And we are so open to new things. Like Rahani said, being in diaspora is amazing to learn about different ways and to be humble to them.
Yeah. So I just, I'm listening to this conversation about, the possibility of appropriation, right? We want to be very careful not to do that, right? And how we do. I know, Zamora and I, we have a history, in the Lakota tradition, and that was for me when I was 25 years old. A friend invited me to a sweat lodge, and next thing you know, I was at the Two-Spirit Sundance ceremony, and that was pivotal. Pivotal, huge to my healing, and to my discovering my own indigeneity, right? At that point, I actually didn't really fully know, I was, okay, I'm Boricua. I have some relatives that are light-skinned. I have some relatives that are more, black-skinned. And, and I have some relatives that are kind of brown. And they, I really didn't know what was my mix, who am I, right? And at Sundance, and the first time I got into a sweat lodge, I felt my ancestors there for the first time at a Lakota ceremony. My ancestors, my indigenous ancestors came and met me there, because that was the only place that I had that, I feel like they led me there. They led me there to heal and to discover them there. So all that time that I spent, those years that I Sundanced, that was for my ancestors, for my Taino ancestors, for my indigenous ancestors, And so during all those ceremonies, it was about discovering myself and my people. But those ways, right? Those ways help me. And so I have a deep connection to those songs, right? And the tobacco, there's also things that overlap with indigenous people, right? Like tobacco, right? I learned about the tobacco at the Sundance ceremony, but my people use tobacco too, right? And many of our peoples, right, that are of the earth, right, use tobacco in different ways. And I wanted to use tobacco I wanted tobacco all around me. I wanted the smoke all around me, right? That wasn't how the Lakota were using it though, but that's how I naturally felt. That's what I wanted. And then later I was like, oh, and then I found out more and more about my own people and what they do. And I was like, oh, that's because that's what my people do, with the tobacco. So there's all these overlaps of the medicine, and maize also, right, is actually, and tobacco comes, those two words are actually Taino. They come from, so because, the colonizers, the Taino were the first ones to greet, Columbus. So there's a lot of these words that we use that are actually from my people that I found out later, but here originally they came to me through other people, other indigenous peoples, right? So yeah, it's interesting.
Definitely. I think one thing that I connect to how we end up doing our circles, our gatherings, whether they back in the day were in person or online, is where we come with specific medicine that we've learned, that we carry from our traditions, that's been gifted to us, and even we've been asked to carry this, a pipe or a drum, right? So we come with these medicines that are from our cultura or not, but it's come into our life. And when we gather with people from all different places, BIPOC folks who may or may not be more schooled and knowing their history, their indigenous culturas, when we gather them together and we share what we've been asked to share, right? This medicine, we're not saying, here, come be Lakota. Here, learn this Lakota song, and now, boom, you're Lakota. And we're not even saying, here, come be Native. Boom, you're Native. We don't do that. We're sharing. Why? Because it's a way that we learned. People have put trust in these ways to help us take care of ourselves, take care of our relations, our family, our people. It's tried and true. It's old stuff. And me, I'm humble before that. And then we say, hey, you're not feeling so good, or maybe you need help, or maybe you just need a circle, the roundness of a circle. Maybe we just need to sit and listen to each other. But the way I learned, the little bit I know, let's do it around the drum. Because I know that. I've been told, and I've been asked to carry this. So come. And this is one way. You got to learn your way, or you have to remember your way. Because this drum is round. It's round for a reason. We got to see each other. We got to look at each other. And to learn a song, I have to watch you move your mouth. and learn the song in somebody else's language. Some other time for you in your family history, it wasn't a drum. It was a table. It was a kitchen table. And somebody was pulling apart meat and someone was chopping something. And some mama was telling you about the history of this, how your auntie used to make this, how they learned it from this place on this continent. That's medicine. And if I'm gifted with an invitation to come and sit at your family table and you give me a knife and a chopping board, it don't mean I know all about that. It just means I've been blessed by your tradition. And I learned and I ate it up. And it helped me that day. And I may do things differently after that with your flavor. I might spice it up a little different and change my life. But it don't mean I'm suddenly of that tradition or I'm even a part of your family. That's a bigger thing. We learned that together over time. It don't mean come on in. You're now part of this Lakota family. No, you be patient. You listen. You learn. You repeat. What do you say? Wash, rinse, repeat over some time. And you ask questions when it's appropriate. But you don't leave 1, 2, 3 drum circles and then some other day in public in a protest or something, you're suddenly with the drum singing a song. No, somebody's going to come up to you and go, hey, what you doing? Where'd you learn that? Do you know what that is? No. So I just want to say that in that context, that there's care taken. There's care taken when you come and gather folks and you learn over time, but it don't mean that you're going to appropriate that and think that, oh, I just bought this. It's mine now. It's a commodity now. I own this song. I own how to drum, or I own this ritual because I saw it once or twice. No. And the way you protect against that, I think, is that you say you're coming together. We're going to help each other, and it's a road to walk together. And you don't just come in, grab, and go, because it's not yours to take down that road. You have to be a part of the community that's teaching you, and then you actually end up teaching them and creating together.
So that's important. What is the purpose? What are you using this medicine for? How are you taking it into the community? So with that in mind, I'm going to ask, which communities reach out to you? Which ones do you reach out to? And what kind of medicine do you bring them?
So because in answering, being the first person who answers the questions, I just kind of have the general answer. And then these two are more nuanced. But we work with indigenous communities. And okay, first of all, the answer to that is Loa and Zamora and Rahini, we are indigenous people. So we start from where we're at. So that's how we do things. That's how indigenous people do things. We don't go, oh, then I'm going to go and do something with some other community, just like this beautiful explanation that Zamora just did. So we sit on the table. We go back to that table that we've been sitting on the whole time, or if it's the floor, we sit at that place in those communities. They will tell you that, like, the Lakota circles they've been part of. But just like me, we've also shared that we've been community organizers. So I've been organizing with the Pacific Islander community since actually I've been here in the United States. And so I go back to my community, and I sit down with them. And so I invite them to come. But in doing that, we extend ourselves, because then they know people that are also not Pacific Islander and who we could also invite. And just one thing that I like to speak to is, again, just talking about what happened to us when colonization occurred. Migration, happened, wars, and all these kinds of things that have happened. And so how we come here to Turtle Island, and like here we are sitting here, Ava, you also come from a different community too, and we all sit around this beautiful drum, Wakanuia, and so how is that? So because of colonization, a lot of things have happened to our families, and again to Two-Spirit people and all of our connections. So we have been disconnected and been forcefully having to go to different places. And here we are on Huchin. Here we are sitting in Oakland, and so we actually meet a lot of people. We see a lot of people who are both Two-Spirit and just people yearning to know who they are. To know, like Rahani spoke about it, just like who know about something. I learned this a lot when I went to prison, and I was facilitating in prison with Pacific Islander women and Pacific Islander men in Solano and in Chowchilla, and where like there's a okay, let me think about this person. There's this El Salvadorian person, young person, and their mother or their father, I don't remember which one, was Kanaka Maoli from Hawaii. And so that was something that they knew, but they didn't really grow up with because of the displacement and the brokenness of the family unit. And the extended family. So they never met the Pacific Islander parent, but they grew up in somewhere here in Cali. And so they were really touched to come, but there were all these mixes. So there's a lot. We work with a lot of people who we say today, or the Native communities always use mixed blood, right? They say mixed blood. So we work with a lot of young people and all age people, intergenerational people who are mixed blood. Because people just don't know all these things where their being indigenous lies, and that's also, I feel, is the power of our group that they will talk about.
Yeah, I mean, right now, primarily working with the Two-Spirit QT BIPOC community. That's what's happening right now, and in the past, I have been blessed to be able to go back to Borinquen and do work there with the community there after Hurricane Maria, right, which devastated the island. I got to go back there for a month and work with a community there. And I was able to hold circles with that community, healing circles specifically for the queer and trans community in Borinquen, which doesn't hardly have any, resources for that community actually, and and there's a lot of especially trans murders that go on the island, sadly, because it is such a colonized island, right? So the mentality, it's just So it was people were just thrilled to have this space. And I was able to even bring the chanupa, right, the Lakota pipe, to my people and pray with that. And it was actually a full circle, and it was what my, chief, my leader, had told me to do. When she gave me that instrument of prayer, when she handed that to me, the words that she said was, use this to pray with your people, right? So this is what we do as Indigenous people too. We share medicine, and you'll find this, you'll find this. I even, was just recently doing some research on conch trumpets, actually, right? And so many different peoples use this instrument. So many Indigenous peoples that live by the water, use this instrument, including my people. And one of the things that I found was this really old, ancient conch that was in Mexico. And it was decorated with these beautiful Aztec markings. And what they had done was then they wanted to know, well, where did this shell come from, though? And the shell actually came from the Caribbean, right? So, so we know there's proof that whether they believe it or not, that, they think we were primitive and archaic, we know that we were traveling around, that we were trading, that we were sharing stories. I mean, my people have the Seba tree is, our sacred like tree of life, right? And that's also true for the Mayan people, right? So, that's why it's like when you go to the medicine, the indigenous medicine, you're going to find all these overlaps. And whether it's your way or not, you're going to find your way. You're going to find your way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. You just are.
Yeah, it occurs to me right now, like not all the trade in the world was for profit. Some things travel because they're good and they're needed and they've been given flight. Like, take this and take it to your people, It's not been sent out in the world so you can make money off of it. It's not sent so you can become the bigger, more famous person, So I love that you're sharing that sometimes you're giving a manda, right? Because it's blessed you and now it's yours, but it comes with a responsibility. And it's more than a responsibility. It's a manda is you're carrying it now. That's the best way to say it. You're carrying medicine. What you gonna do with it now? So another story of that is this drum, right? That the drum, Wakanwea, is a sacred woman, two-spirit drum. It comes from that same community and two-spirit women's ceremony back in the 70s when this dance was started. They used to use the language women's ceremony or women's sundance ceremony, and now we call it a two-spirit ceremony, right? But it's the same family and generations of intertribal, interracial, but folks coming under and with and together around a Lakota ceremony. This drum, Wakanwea, was a ceremonial drum for many years, I believe 10. And then it was starting to have some trouble. Actually, you don't see it on the camera here, but there's a little bit of a breakage over here and something over there. So this drum's about to be rebirthed. It's going to be repaired like then. And the leader, our Sundance chief, said, okay, Zamora, let's take this and we're going to get a new drum. And I was like, well, wait, why can't we just repair it? You're going to retire it? Why? Well, but, she just said, nah, don't worry about it. Just, why don't you hold it in your house? And I held it for a year, held it for another year. And then the chief came to live with me for a while, stayed at my house. And I kept getting these requests and people saying, hey, would you like to drum a little bit at this conference? Would you like to do an opening song or two? And I didn't have a drum at that time. And so my friend, she said, oh, yeah, go ahead and use that one. Go ahead and use it. So I took it here and I took it there. And then eventually, it was going on 6 months of doing that. And but I'm like, what's going to happen? Are we retiring this or what are we doing? But it's just like, just sometimes you don't get the message right away is what I'm saying. It's just like things unfold. But eventually we were there in community one day and we were playing on this drum and they made an announcement. Didn't tell me nothing. I was just like, what? They announced that they were going to gift this drum, our ceremonial drum. They were gifting it to our community here in the Bay Area. And they said they're gifting it for you all to hold as not a ceremonial drum. It's to be a public drum. It can be photographed. It can be taken. Everyone can sit at it. And the vision for it was, I just want you to carry it in a good way so that people have more access to drum medicine. That's it. Just use it in that way. You don't have to only keep it for ceremony. It's for you all to use. And then we decided how to do that and have a drum council. But that's Wakanwea, two-spirit drum. And its vision is it comes from this history. It's a good thing. It helps people. So now let's share it. Get it out there. If someone's sick and they can't come to you, but you heard go take it to their house, right? It doesn't have to be a part of a ceremony or this and that once or twice. It is to go, and you guys take care of it and you spread it. So that's how Wakanwea came to Spirit Root Medicine people, which, by the way, the end part of that name is Spirit Root Medicine people, indigenous two-spirit life ways. This here is a life way that's come into my life, and it's a part of my medicine personally. And these folks opened up the door to bring the drum. Well, if we're going to talk about two-spirit life ways, what you got? What you got? Oh, I got the drum. Want me to bring it? Let's do it. And now it's shared in that way as one example only. But it's what I carry, so it's my offering. And I just wanted to share that why wouldn't you share the good things that have come into your life?
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Z.
Yes, wonderful. I'd like to ask the group, what are the other medicine, the forms, the methods that you bring to your training, to your community-based learning training?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Alva, for that question. I think it is important that we're in our 50s at this time of our lives that we come to do this. I'm not saying it's a requirement. We didn't know. We don't know what the requirements were. But like as Ra was just saying, it's just you come when you need the medicine. And it's just what happened, So A, B, C happened, and it just brought us together like that. And it actually has been quite, simple. I wouldn't, it doesn't mean it's been easy all the time emotionally, but it's been simple about how it just came together. Like what would you say? Something like maybe, I'm a farmer, so perhaps we planted some good seeds and and watered them and weeded it, and with the sunshine and the rain, and it blossomed. And we do. I feel really confident in this group that this is a kind of group that actually it's a spiritual group. It's what this group is. It's actually a spiritual group, to also say that, because to say that we're indigenous and two-spirit, that's our focus, is to say it's the obvious for us as indigenous people. But I guess I need to say it to viewers who are out there, because, we do live also under other systems. So it's a spiritual group, first and foremost. So this Spirit Root Medicine people, is saying, is trying to convey that spirit is what this group is about. And it's about our bodies, and our bodies, just like the land, it has been decimated. It's been destroyed. Just like our environment, our physical and natural environment, it's been destroyed, just like our bodies. Because as indigenous people, we know that we are off the land. The land is just a reflection of us. And when I say land, I'm not only talking about soil and rocks, I'm also talking about the water, the water and the sky. And so, wow, I kind of lost my train of thought up there. But, yeah, maybe I'll come back to it, because that's just how this circle is for me. It's now it's back. It's this is a spiritual group, and how we came to it is just through what people say God, or there's different names for that, right? An energy, and I definitely believe it's the two-spirit ancestors, and of course, Creator. That's how we come to this, and this is just how it works in our group.
So I'm going to ask again. We got the drum, we got tobacco, we got the pipe, and all of it is about the spirituality, right?
Yes.
Well, I think that we carry certain medicines that are formal, like either a ritual or a way of doing something. But also, I think what's running through a lot of them is as persons, when we come together in a circle, what we're doing is listening, deep listening. and sharing and speaking. So not everybody speaks in the circle, but there's a lot of story, and in that way, we're really communicating. We have tools that we've learned and picked up along the way. But I think I love that, Loa is a writer, as many of us are, and a poet. But one tradition of that you see that in is just talking story, just telling a story like we've already each taken a turn at. And sometimes it's really important when people come that they're expecting the things, the objects, right? Is this going to be a lodge? Is this going to be a such and such ceremony? And what is striking is when they really sit down and start listening, they're realizing that regardless of what object or what native tradition that you're doing, what's at the heart of it is palabra, speaking your truth, or someone channeling what needs to be said at that moment, what you needed to hear. And that's talk story. That's what we do. Like I said, I'm going to bring it back to that kitchen table. Folks do that. And sometimes it's not fancy. It's not in a church. It's not in a beautiful altar. The altar has many times been our home, our grandmother's living room, where some really good sharing happened, right? And so I want to say that might be so obvious, and I guess it's not sexy, right? Like, oh, what do you do? Oh, we sit around and talk. But we pray. That's a prayer. When we go vulnerable and deep and speak what's on our minds, we're actually laying down a prayer, an intention. Here's what is on my mind and on my heart. And in there somewhere is what I want, what I pray, what I'm hoping for, what I'm visioning. But we can't get to it until someone's listening and we're just 2 friends or 5 friends or 20 friends listening to each other. And oh my gosh, we're praying, right? You were saying earlier, like some folks don't know, I don't pray. I don't know what that is. I never went to church or whatever. And it turns out that folks start coming and they look forward to circle because they're feeling that this thing that they're learning is to clear your mind and speak maybe a little bit of story. And through listening and through that speaking and maybe a song or something like that, we're actually like, I'm getting to know what I want for myself, for my family, for my community. That's big medicine.
Okay, big medicine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have a lot of big medicine, right? Because we have the Wakamia drum that we have in our circles, and we have had a pipe ceremony in the past. And we have our altars that carry lots of medicine right here on this altar. Also, making sure that all of the elements are present on the altar, is very important to me. So we have, the water, and we have the earth, right, and the tobacco and the maize and the copal, right, and we also have here, this is water and air combined, right, because this is an instrument that you blow through, right? So we have all the elements present here in the medicine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the fire is the candle. But also we are the medicine, right? So I just want to bring that in. We are the medicine. And that's part of the point of bringing all of this, to our two-spirit QT BIPOC people, right, is to help them see that they are the medicine, right? Because when they see us standing and being grounded and being able to really, tap in to spirit, being able to pray, then they can know that, they can do that too, they can carry that medicine too. And it takes time, right? You have to go to the ceremonies. You have to sit for a while, right? And so that you can be able to hold that space for the people in a sacred way. And so being the medicine that we are, right? We create these beautiful containers where people open their hearts, right? And there's heart medicine, right? That's heart medicine, and the heartbeat of the drum too. People open their hearts and people cry in our circles. Even on Zoom, people cry and people are amazed that, like, wow, I didn't know that I was gonna, feel this way. I didn't know that I was gonna open up this way, right? But it's because we're really tapping into the medicine and being the medicine, right? Embodying the medicine.
Yeah, that's the part that I was bringing up about that this is a spiritual, being that it's indigenous and two-spirit, it's spiritual. It's a spiritual group. And a lot of what we do, like Zamora was saying, we don't have like, yeah, if you come to this group, then, all your dreams are going to come true and you're just going to be this, really happy unicorn and just be able to flourish. We hope that happens. But we that's not the medicine we have. We don't have that kind of medicine. So being that we're a spiritual group that are rooted in being indigenous and in the first of all, the indigenous people of the lands that we work on, and then in our own culture and our own ancestors, that's what we're rooted in. That means that the kind of medicine we're going to give you, you're not going to see it. Like we can't say that we're giving you gold and silver. The kind of medicine that we do is that we hold space. That's like the biggest medicine that spirit root medicine people does. We hold space. And that's exactly what Rod just talked about. But I just wanted to reiterate and support you, Ryan, what you're saying. We hold the space. So yeah, when people enter, they are going to feel, whoa, this is a different space. And what we're holding is the two-spirit, the QT, BIPOC, queer, trans, non-binary, BIPOC, indigenousness of our ancestors. That's what we're holding. And no film can catch that. But of course, yeah, we're also, it can't catch us and understand that in our heart, like you said. But that's it's not something that, because we've lost it with colonization, for QT BIPOC people, we've lost how that looks like. We lost how that feels to be reconnected to our land, and to our ancestors. We've lost that. So that's what we offer. We offer that is not external. It's something in here. And it's because it's definitely, it's creator. It's something that you got. So when you come to our group too, we can't give it to you. We don't give you anything. We can't be like, here you go. No, you just watch, and we do it repetitively all the time. How do the prayers go? How do the directions go? How do the land acknowledgments go? How do the elders or the young people speak? You pick it up and you just, it goes into your spirit, and you reclaim yourself, and you learn how to be stronger as a queer, trans, non-binary person and two-spirit person. You get to stand up, and you get to speak back in a stern but really spiritual way to people who tell you that you should not be trans, that you're screwed that you're trans, and that you shouldn't be non-binary. You get to have that strength, and that's comes from you and your ancestors and your own, and creator. That comes, and that's the beauty of this work, is that we really don't do anything. We just be ourselves. We have to just be, like Rob was just saying, we have to be strong in what we're trying to see in you.
You know what? That was beautifully said. I love that you said you're holding this space so that they can find themselves. Like you said, Ryan, you found yourself by going through the different ceremonies and being in community, hearing the stories, hearing the songs, and then participating, being there, not just someone looking in, but someone who was invited to be a part and acknowledged, like you just said, acknowledged. You have a place. You are important. You are just as you should be. So You alluded to your story earlier. Do you want to add a little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah, this how I came to all this medicine. Yeah, I was, I had a very, very difficult time as a young queer person. I came out when I was 15 years old, and my family did not accept me at all. They sent me to a psychotherapist to try to change me, right? Because that was when people were trying to, they had these programs to try to help, queer LGBTQ people change, right? Because something was wrong with us, right? Luckily, I went to a therapist who did not have that way of thinking, and actually told my family after seeing me for a couple months that I was they were like, they are very mature and they know exactly who they are, and there's nothing wrong with your child. But they still didn't accept me, and they tried to keep me from going to my youth meetings, that I really needed, that were enriching me, and didn't want me to see my friends because they were worried that I was having sex with girls. And so I left home at 15, and and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. I was homeless for a while. I slept on trains and park benches and friends' couches, and I had to start working really hard so that then I could rent a room here and there, and then I was very lost. I started partying and drugging, and even spent 9 days in jail once. And that was actually the straw that broke the camel's back, really, when that happened. And that was literally a year before I, discovered, or as I say, ceremony discovered me, right? My ancestors helped me and say, hey, here's a little, invitation to go to a sweat lodge, and I was hungry for it too. I was hungry for healing. I knew I needed healing because I knew I was going down a really, really dark road, a destructive road. And, when I got to ceremony, everything started to change, and I started to heal, and started to get stronger. And so this work is very important to me because, if I didn't have access to that, I don't know where I would be today. I really don't. I don't know where I would be today. And so I don't want that. I don't want that from my other relatives out there. I want them to be strong. I want them to know they're beautiful. I want them to know that, yes, they are the medicine, and yes, they can be grounded. And people come up to me and like, wow, you're so grounded, right? Because I do the direction. They're like, wow, and I'm like, wow, well, this took some time. This took some work, and keep on coming back because you can have this too. You can be this way too. Yes, you can. So, yeah.
Malo.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful testimony. Yes. And I think that speaks to the work you do in the community, that holding of space, that creating the space to not only speak your truth, but to acknowledge those who came before us, the land acknowledgement, the calling in of the directions, that whole connection to spirit, right?
Yeah.
That's so, we say fundamental, but a lot of us have been disconnected, like you said. And so your work is just phenomenal. I have to say that.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to ask you, where do you envision spirit medicine people going? What is your vision?
Well, I'm taking that question a little differently right now after what we've just been talking about. It's where we're going collectively. All this journey is collective. Every single time we come together, everyone's holding a piece of the story. Everyone's holding a lineage of the realities that they just lived through, their ancestors, their life story as queer, trans, two-spirit, etc., all these folks. and they hold a part of the story, and literally they hold a part of today's story. Like when we gather, today's story. That's why every time someone speaks or sings or makes or tells a story, it is the circle. We don't create it. That's what we keep saying. So where will we be? That's a great question. And I know it's limitless because the hearts of the people we're so powerful. I know that sounds so corny. We're powerful people. I've seen and heard from all these friends that we've made along the way from Oregon and Washington, and not just, the Bay Area. That's where we started when we were in person. We started like that, doing circles in person. But since the restrictions of COVID, we went online. Now we got folks tuning in from New York and from, I've seen some folks come from overseas, from Europe, from Puerto Rico, from Mexico. Anyway, it's what will we do? We just went through this crazy time, disruptive but being in our homes, or maybe some of us less connected to community, we found different ways to connect through Zoom and things like that. We connected to people we would never have met before because of it. So what will we do with this? The results of this time, the changed lives of this time, and what we've been exposed to. I don't know exactly, but I think there's so much potential. I think we've talked about, for me, the drum brings so many different waves of people, and some come and some go, and then they come back, and some stay a long time. And sometimes people will be there for 3 months and 4 months, and then I don't see them anymore. But I still have a place for them at the drum for whenever they might come back. So once they've been given a place for me at the drum, or maybe in Spirit Root, like I don't ever feel like it's my job to say, no, you can't come no more. So these people from all around, I think even if when we do return to in-person, I don't think we're ever going to necessarily stop doing the Zoom thing or the online, like somehow connecting to people far away, because they're part of my story. They're a part of the story now. And how could you? You wanted healing, you got some healing, or you need some more, but that door has already been open. So I think that's one thing about the future is we have to be careful. We open doors, and we might want to tend to them in a real gentle way. That means, might have to kick up our technology a little bit and make sure that they're all able to continue, because now we touched each other in that way.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I envision, because our circles are powerful and healing and wonderful, but they're usually only a couple hours long, right? And I know, because I've experienced personally, that when you sit in sacred circle for days in a row, deeper layers of healing happen, deeper transformation can happen. And so I would love for Spirit Root Medicine people at some point, if we can get enough funding, right? Because we don't want people to pay for anything. We want this to be free for our people, to have some type of retreats like that where people can come, for 4 days, 5 days, and really, really immerse themselves in this. That would just be deeply transformational. So I'm calling that in.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to help you. Let's all call it in.
For sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember going to graduate school and our intensive, it sounds like that.
Yeah.
The intensive to go into the program. Just totally immersed, in that experience. And, Yeah, what a better, I can't think of a better way to really ground it,
Yeah.
within your person.
Yeah.
So that is so great.
I also think one thing that we've already started, and we're blessed to be able to do that, is to welcome other guests from different traditions, carrying different kinds of healing medicine. So I hope that we can continue that. Like I'm really am certain that we're not the only folks who bring medicine to our circles, but with these guests who come, they've been able to represent different communities, for example, but also different ways towards wellness, right? Yeah.
Different lineages and traditions.
Yeah.
It's really, there's a lot. That's good that we have all those connections, right? And we can bring these people in, and then folks get exposed, right? So yeah, that is a blessing, and I want to be able to keep doing that as well. Yeah, bringing in other folks.
Right, that is so great.
Yeah.
I'm loving this conversation. I think I want to come back to us more because you had a drum story,
Oh yeah.
right?
I got a few. It's true. It's true. Yeah, no, I think as just reflecting on all the places we've been, it's just the biggest thing that I carry away sometimes is collective healing, coming together. And one of the things I've already said is the drum literally is this circle. It makes us sit in a circle at it, come together, listen to each other, sing together, and heal together. And it's like this song that reminds us that just coming into the circle is really important medicine. So one of our songs, Lakota songs, it says the sacred pipe, the chanupa, has been given. It's sacred, so pray with it. The circle has been given. It's sacred, so pray with it. Yeah, and I really, I think I love songs that break it down like that for you. Like, use it, y'all. It's right there. You don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need to carry a whole bunch of tools. You don't even need the drum to sit in a circle. Chanu pakile chela waka cha yuha chekiayo hey. Changleshka kile waka cha chekiayo hey. It's there. It's been given to us. It's sacred, and now it's yours. Use it. Pray with it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. This has been such a wonderful sharing, and we're going to wrap it up now. So, any closing remarks, statements you want to make at this time?
yeah. To the indigenous Two-Spirit, queer, trans, and non-binary folks of all ages, just sending you so much love. Stay strong. We depend on you. Afalahiatu.
Well, now I'm gonna do just a little verse to a song too, Z, because that's what came to me.
Yeah.
And this is I'm just gonna do one line of it. This is a Cherokee morning song, and I just sang this song this morning, and it always fills me up with so much light when I sing it, right? And it's basically proclaiming that I am of the Great Spirit, right? And that is what we do in these circles is, help people to remember that they are sacred, that they are of the Great Spirit, right? So this is a song you sing in the morning. Wendeya ho, Wendeya ho, Wendeya, Wende ya. Oh, ea ho, ya, ya.
Oh,
Blessing.
Takya, say all our relations. Thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe.